Welcome to the Self-Growth Nerds podcast. I'm your host, Marie, a courage coach, creative soul, and adventure seeker. Since through hiking the Pacific Crest Trail in 2019, I'm on a mission to help you embrace your most confident self so you can achieve your dreams too. If you're eager for deep conversations, big questions, and meaningful connections, join me on the quest to discovering how we can create a more magical and memorable life. Hello nerds! How are you doing today? I'm really good. Today I want to dedicate a whole episode to relationship because I've never done so before and I'm really proud of what Ollie and I have created. For those of you who don't know, Ollie is my partner and we've been together for a little more than 5 years. And what we have didn't just happen because we're the perfect fit. Not at all. There was deep inner work involved in making our relationship as good as it is today, and that's what I want to touch on in this episode. And I think the insights are going to be really powerful. Now let me start with explaining what a good relationship means to me. And by the way, this can also apply if you're in an open relationship or in a polyamorous situation. I'm just going to focus on the dynamic between two human beings within whatever structure. To me, a good relationship is one in which you are complete without the other person. You don't need them in order to be content and to live a good life. You choose to be with them to share and enhance your day-to-day. Therefore, both people can be their full self because they're not afraid to lose the other. They don't want to lose the other, but they know that they would be okay without them because their worth is not determined by the presence or desire of the other. So both people have their own life outside of the relationship with friends and hobbies, and they do not depend on the other for entertainment and fulfillment. They are able to spend time alone and to be their own person. Both people are also willing to have calm and open discussions about their relationship. They seek to understand more than to be understood. They are transparent, have the emotional maturity to express their feelings and make space for the other person's feelings too, without taking them on their shoulder or turning them against themselves. To me, a good relationship is one in which love is given freely and unconditionally. What I mean when I say unconditionally is that love is not played with or withheld in certain conditions. So it's not like I will show you love only when you do this or only when you make me feel like that. Instead, it's I love you and I don't like when you do that. It's also essential in a good relationship that each individual loves themselves more than the other person or the relationship itself. This allows for healthy boundaries and might look like I love you and I don't like when you do that, so I'm going to walk away now out of love for myself. I also believe that a good relationship means each person is ultimately responsible for their own well-being and doesn't put it solely in the hands of the other person to make them feel good. Sure, you can receive their support and have your life be made easier due to their presence, yes, but you don't expect them to create happiness in your heart. You realize that other people and their behavior cannot cause your feelings. What you believe about them and about their behavior creates your feelings. Essentially, your thoughts create your feelings, nothing else. So you get the gist. It seems like I could go on for hours talking about what the vision of a good relationship is, but I think this was a pretty good summary. So if you resonate with my definition, let me tell you about how the hell I got there, and if you don't, you can just stop listening now, and that's okay. And please note before we move forward that none of what I will touch on in this episode applies to emotional and physical abuse. So please seek help if you have a niggling feeling that you are being made to feel unworthy, okay? So first things first, the main messaging that we hear is that it takes two people to do the work for the relationship to improve. And I disagree. I believe that there's no point for you to control your partner's growth process or perceived lack of growth process. However tempting this is, you know just like I do that it only leads to frustration. Instead, I think you're much better off, more empowered, focusing on what you can do to feel better within yourself, trusting that that will have a major impact on all aspects of your life, including your relationship. In other words, I believe you can make your relationship way better than it is just by working on yourself. And I think that is really good news. So now let's go back in time to before I knew about all this. I met Ollie at the climbing gym, and what attracted me to him in the first place is his kind nature and adventurous, driven, freedom-seeking side. We went on a camping trip with his friends, and I loved to watch him take initiative, setting the climbing anchors on the wall during the day and caring for the fire at night. I knew from the beginning that he also loved to play video games. On our second date, we were chatting in a restaurant with glasses of wine, and he said, "Should we go back to my place and play Mario Kart?" I knew he loved video games from the start, but I just chose to ignore it because it didn't match with the perfect portrait I had drawn of him in my mind as like an adventurous outdoor lover. So when we moved in together a few years later, that's when I couldn't ignore the fact that he loved video games anymore, and I was confronted with my own thoughts about it. So I would sit on the sofa reading in the evening and see him build civilizations or fight wars or repair spaceships on his big screen in the office. I had thoughts like, I freaking hate video games. He should be doing something creative or useful. He has homework to do. There are dishes to wash. He told me he'd love to build something out of his hands, so why doesn't he do that instead? It's been 3 hours. This is senseless. The ongoing inner monologue. And some of you might think, yes, I agree with you. I hate video games too, and my ego would thank you for being on my side, but that's beside the point. Do we want to be right, or do we want to be happy and create a world in which everyone feels safe and accepted being themselves? I think I vote for the latter. You, on the other hand, might be dealing with something other than video games in your relationship. What is it that your partner or partners do that doesn't necessarily have a direct impact on you per se, but it gets on your nerves and it just does not fit in your vision of how life should be experienced or what a perfect partner should be like? Perhaps they stay up late at night, or perhaps they neglect to wash the dishes or watch too much television, wear the same t-shirt all the time, complain too much. What's the one thing that life is testing you with in your relationship? Now, what's the solution? Bad news is that the solution is not for your partner to stop playing video games or to stop doing whatever they're doing. If that's your goal, you are creating a controlling dynamic and no one wants that. Try as you might, it doesn't work. Or if it does seem to work, then you create a space in which the other person is fitting in what you want them to be, and that's not sustainable in the long term. It's a ticking time bomb. I was lucky that Ollie is uncontrollable. He's a wild spirit and would always put the responsibility of my emotions back into my own hands. So, for example, I'd go like, "Can you just stop? It's annoying. You've played enough for today. I don't like video games." And he'd be like, what are you really trying to say? You want to spend more time with me? Is that it? You want me to wash the dishes? He wouldn't play my emotional game and bend under my dissatisfaction. So I had to look for another way, a better way. Step one. Okay, step one is to realize that you are trying to change someone in order for you to feel better. It's not about them, it's about you. So ask yourself, how do you feel about them playing video games? I definitely felt annoyed. Then ask, what do you wish they were doing instead? Oh, I wished he would be reading next to me on the sofa. Okay, how would that make you feel? Well, it would make me feel peaceful and connected. Sit in that. You want to feel peaceful and connected. This is valid. Let's say you said you wished they would be doing the dishes instead, or more house chores. How would that make you feel? Supported? You want to feel supported. That's okay. This is 100% valid. Let's see how you can make yourself feel peaceful, connected, or supported without changing the other person. But before we do that, we must look at how you feel about the behavior now, and you have to understand that your feeling of annoyance is not caused by them or their behavior. It's caused by what you make the situation mean. Feelings are never caused by circumstances, but like I was saying earlier, they're caused by thoughts about those circumstances. So let's go to step 2. Step 2 is neutralizing the circumstance. What is it that they're doing in its most neutral form? What are the actual facts? And this needs to be totally objective. So in my situation, the circumstance is Ollie is sitting in front of the computer playing video games. Don't add anything like when there are dishes that need to be washed. And this is subjective. We want to keep it as neutral as possible. And then we move on to step 3. Step 3 is figuring out what you make it mean. What did I make the neutral circumstance mean about him and about me and our relationship? I made it mean that he was lazy and that I'm with someone who doesn't get shit done, so therefore I am less motivated to get shit done and it's his fault. Something like that. Then once you choose to hold on to that kind of belief, your brain goes to town looking for evidence that this is true. It's called confirmation bias. Our brains are wired to look for what confirms our thoughts and to tune out everything else that would contradict what we have chosen to believe. Let's take the dishes example. What do you make it mean that your partner doesn't do the dishes as often as you want them to? Perhaps you make it mean that they are not supportive and that you are a failed feminist. Really look deeply at what's hiding in your anger or sadness or frustration. What's the story you are telling yourself around that circumstance? I remember once we were preparing to go on a trip and we were super last minute and I was getting really angry and scattered and Ollie was like, "What's wrong?" I said, "We're so last minute. I'm pissed off." What was hiding underneath those words were that I made it mean that once we'd have children, we would be late everywhere and people would think we were irresponsible parents. This is far-fetched, I know. But notice what your brain does. It gets really creative real fast without us noticing. Now imagine what you would make it mean if your partner did do the thing that you said you wished they were doing instead. What would you make it mean then? If Ollie was reading next to me on the sofa, I guess I would make it mean that he's an intellectual and that we connect on a deep level and that we stimulate each other. If your partner was doing the dishes, what do you imagine you would make it mean? That they're involved, committed to your life together, that you have achieved gender equality if you're in a heterosexual relationship, and on and on and on. The truth is, you would probably not be thinking that because you would take it for granted and your brain would be focused on some other flaw because that's what brains do. They look for problems. And when there's no problems, they create them. Step 4 is Going even deeper and identifying the belief hiding behind that meaning. My deep-seated belief that I am working on unlearning is that the more productive you are, the more worthy you become. And what I believe is productive is everything that makes you grow, like books and courses and homework, and everything that creates results, like an art piece, a DIY project, a house chore, etc. If you're not doing one of those things, your worth as a human being decreases. Now, rationally, I know that that's bonkers. You are worthy no matter what, but it is unconsciously woven inside my being and it influences how I live my life and who I look up to or don't. I have a hard time resting. I tend to work a lot. I look up to people who have accomplished great things. I have an all or nothing mindset, or I used to, and I'm unlearning that mindset. And I'm not the only one who thinks this way. I mean, most of us grew up in the same kind of society, right? So when I approached Ollie about his video game playing, he could sense that I was making it mean something about him and that I had this whole underlying set of beliefs. He felt judged. Even if I carefully chose my words as not to sound judgy or controlling, what is hiding in our soul always shows up in our non-verbal communication. So our tone, our eyes, etc. Did that make him want to spend time connecting with me on the sofa? Not really. Did that make him want to understand my point of view and co-create? Meh. So you gotta clean up all of that before you approach your partner about the issue. You can feel the feelings and you can be annoyed. I'm not telling you to suppress that. I'm telling you to take responsibility, to see the neutrality of the situation and to be aware that how you see the world is just one view and that two people can love each other and have different views. It helps if you're willing to understand the other person too. And that's step 5, building empathy. Why did they do what they do? Why is it important to them? Have you made the effort of understanding? Get out of your head and ask questions. Have a curious, non-judgmental conversation. What do you love about video games? What kind of video games? How does it make you feel? When do you do it? How much is enough for you? Then there is a better chance to create a relationship in which you can co-create a reality together with your partner. And that's when step 6 comes in, co-creation. Once you've done the work of managing your mind by cleaning up all the unhelpful thoughts and beliefs, then you can approach the situation, if it's still needed, with more compassion for you or the other person and without the desire to change them. This might look like, okay, I understand that you want to play video games. I want moments of connection. It's important to me. So how could we meet in the middle and let them come up with solutions and add your own ideas and find a way that works for you both? Ollie and I have conversations and make plans to make sure that we have plenty of time together to cuddle and to go for adventures, that we do our fair share of the housework. And then when he plays video games, I do my own thing. And if there's a thing that needs to be done my way or no way, I do it my way and I let him be. And doing your own thing might mean that you look for ways to fulfill the needs that your partner doesn't fulfill for you on your own. And that you ask yourself how it is you want to feel and get creative thinking about how you can make yourself feel this way instead of relying on them doing something that would cause you to think a certain way to create the feelings that you want. See how that can be a lot more frustrating and complex? Okay, let's summarize the 6 steps. Step 1, notice that you are trying to change someone so that you feel better. So how do you feel? Hang out in that feeling and take responsibility for it. Step 2, neutralize the circumstance. Step 3, figure out what you are making their behavior mean Essentially, what are the thoughts that are causing your inner havoc? Step 4, dig even deeper and find the underlying beliefs that are supporting those thoughts. Step 5, build empathy towards the other person. Realize that your view of the world is just one of many. It's not the truth, it's one truth. So get curious about the other person sees the world. And once you've done all of that work, step 6 is approaching the other person and co-creating a reality that works for both of you while taking ownership of your own happiness and being able to do your own thing. And beware, you have to believe that they are willing to co-create and not be on their backs about co-creating. Don't use this method against yourself. You have to trust your partner and give them the benefit of the doubt that while they might not want to change how you want them to change, they are willing to listen and find solutions together if they feel that it's a team effort and not a manipulative scheme. Okay? I'm guilty of having done that. The other day, there was a problem with the car and I had taken care of it the last time because Ollie was out of town. So now I had an agenda. I wanted him to take care of it this time, otherwise it wasn't fair. But as I said, he's not controllable. So I needed to bring it up in a way that would seem like his choice. He was having none of my manipulative bullshit. He doesn't like to be talked to like a child. Instead, I could have cleaned up all of the thoughts that created the frustration and said transparently, there is a problem with the car. What should we do? Now, I can hear some of you think, but why do I have to do all of the work? Well, because you're the one who is feeling annoyed. Take responsibility and stop hoping to magically manifest a reality that's different from the one you are in. If you do the work of changing the way you think, everything around you changes. Listen, you can also leave and be with someone who fits perfectly into your idea of what a partner should be like. You'll have a great time, but you won't grow as much, and you will still meet people in your life outside of your relationship that will do stuff that's not up to your standards. Will you get angry every time? It's like when we're in traffic and Ollie gets angry at bad drivers. I'm like, dude, there will be bad drivers forever. So will you get angry about them for the rest of your life? Or decide to stop caring about them and live your best life listening to music or whatever? If it turns out that you have given this method a real good, honest try, and your partner is not willing to co-create, then you'll have to ask yourself if, as Dan Savage would say, is it a price of admission that you're willing to pay or not? But first, give it a real chance. You might be really surprised. Over time, not only did I notice myself getting lighter and happier, but our relationship also became more lighthearted. I noticed how Ollie started to open up more easily about his feelings, how he started watching movies with me that he would not have watched before, which makes total sense. Of course, he'd want to spend more time with a person who accepts him as he is without judgment or conditions. I also started appreciating how he accepts me as I am and always has. He never expects me to be or do otherwise, and I'm hella grateful for that. Please bear in mind that we're not perfect, but we bring up problems as they come. Sometimes it's messy and I cry and I get pissed off and he's annoyed with me, and sometimes it's super calm and mature conversations. But we try as much as possible to remember that we're a team with equal parties, that we're responsible for our own well-being, and that the other person doesn't have to carry our feelings. Actually, it's better if they don't, because then they're stronger and more able to support us when it's hard, and to connect with us when we feel alone, and to laugh around when life does its thing. I'm really proud of our relationship, like I was telling you at the start of the episode, and I want to help others get there too. So I had an idea. I'm going to host a free private coaching session on the 28th of July at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. You can show up and I'm going to coach you on your relationship. Or you can just sit and listen to the other people getting coached. It's up to you. And if that sounds interesting, you can go to selfgrowthnerds.com/videogames to book your spot. It's going to be on Wednesday, the 28th of July at 7 p.m. Eastern, and there will be a replay if you cannot attend live. Ooh, I hope to see you there, and I'm really excited to coach you on that subject. Now, another great news is that you can now get the Self-Growth Nerds reading list by going to selfgrowthnerds.com/reading list. I gathered 21 books that blew my mind on various subjects like finding your purpose, improving your relationship with money, becoming more courageous, and a bunch of other stuff. All right, so I'm going to go join Ollie now before he leaves to go work on the water dam in British Columbia for a few weeks. I hope this was useful to you, and don't hesitate to come see me in the DMs to talk about this. All right, have a great week, my friends. I love you. Bye. You just listened to the Self-Growth Nerds podcast. Make sure to subscribe and to find me on Instagram at Self-Growth Nerds. If you want individual help developing the confidence to create a more meaningful and exciting life, visit selfgrowthnerds.com today to learn how. Finally, I want to thank my friend Etienne Galano for editing this, and I want to thank you, kind-hearted souls, for growing into your truest, most courageous selves every day and making this world a better, more beautiful place. My name is Marie, and I will talk to you next week.